In this video, we're going to cover spring inversion of control. Now, in the previous videos, we were working on our application. However, we didn't get it to 100% because we didn't have the support for the configuration. And so
it will consume more data and my video quality will be reduced. I think that's why I'm turning off the video.
we need to make use of an object factory to kind of help us out with this solution. And as I mentioned earlier, this is exactly what Spring comes into play. So Spring provides an object factory, so we can have our application talk to Spring, say, hey, give me an object based on a configuration file or annotation. Spring will give you the appropriate implementation. So then your app is configurable and will have full support for that based on our application requirements. So this looks pretty good. All right, so now we're into some real Spring stuff. So the Spring container, the primary functions of the Spring container is one, create and manage objects, that's your inversion of control, and then two, inject objects dependencies, and that's what they call dependency injection. Now we'll actually cover all of this in the course. I'll start off with inversion of control, and then the following videos we'll actually get into dependency injection.
So here we know this.
All right, so now we're into, and as I mentioned earlier,
See here one application, one class I'll be creating, my app. Then this my app should be interacting with the object factory, Spring object, Spring Bean. Okay. It is basically a Java object, but this is created by the Spring. That is why we are calling it as Spring Bean. Spring Bean. Now this Spring Bean or Spring object generated by Spring object factory. Now based on the configuration XML file, based on the configuration, it has to send the object. Here. See, first step, when you open this Eclipse, first you need to configure the server. Okay. After that, we are creating the project. Then, see here, while you are creating the project, that is simply a Java project. You should not choose web project or Maven project. Plain Spring project, that means we are choosing Java project, naming it as Spring Demo 1. Then I'm creating one folder called lib. Right click on the project, new, go for folder, then name it as lib. Inside this lib, we need to paste all the jar files, Spring jar files. We need to paste all the Spring jar files. This where we can able to download this Spring jar files. I have explained in the previous video. You can able to refer it. So I have placed all the jar files here. Then what we need to do is right click on this Spring Demo 1 app. Then go to the properties. Then go to the build path, Java build path. Now click on libraries. Libraries. Here you need to click on class path. Then say add jars. Then expand this Spring Demo 1, expand lib. Then select all these jar files, click on OK. After that, you'll get all the jar files here under class path. Then you need to click on apply and close. Fine. Next, I'm going to create a package called com.vijay.springdemo. Inside this package, I'm going to create initially one class called baseball coach. Baseball coach. Baseball coach.java. Now, Earlier, simply I'll create without this implementation. This implementation. We don't give this implements coach. Simply I'll give baseball coach. If I have like this, okay. Now carefully observe what I'll do here. Let's delete some of the files here. Track coach, my spring, and coach. Okay, I'm deleting this. Later will. Now baseball coach we have. Now I'm deleting this at the rate annotation, at the rate override. Otherwise we'll get error. Okay. Then while returning, I'm returning some string. Now my app is there. My app. Now what I'll do is I'll say baseball coach. Baseball coach. I'm trying to create an object for baseball coach. Then after that, I'm calling that get daily workouts method on this baseball coach. Very simple. You should choose Java application. Should not choose run on server as of now. Should choose run as Java application. So from the baseball coach get daily workouts method, you'll get the output spend 30 minutes for batting practice. Like that you'll get. Okay. Then what I'll do, I'll create another file. Okay. I'm going to create another file called track coach. Track coach. Open the track coach. I'll delete this implementation as of now. Now here also method is there. Get a daily workouts. I need to remove this at the rate override. Okay. Then come to the my app. Here I'm trying to create an objective for track coach. Track coach. Then I'll say track coach. New track coach. Now what you can do is copy this reference. Using the reference, call the get daily workouts method on the track coach. Now what you will get, this output also will get batting practice, and this also will get run a hard 5K. That output also will get. See here we are calling it as it is hard coded. Okay, it is hard coded. Still it is hard coded. That means this baseball coach can only handle what? Baseball coach. It cannot handle track coach. Cannot handle track coach. Track coach can only handle this track coach can only handle what? Track coach object only. It cannot handle baseball coach object. Now in the software we are going to use this interface. Okay. We can able to write better programs by using interface. How? The same interface can able to handle baseball coach also and track coach also. How? How is that? I'm going to create coach. I'm going to create coach interface. Coach interface. Here I have get a daily workouts method. Okay, this is the abstract method. Interface by default method is abstract. So get a daily workout is abstract. Now this coach interface will be implemented by Baseball coach implements baseball coach, sorry, implements coach, implements coach, then track coach also implements coach. Here, if it is implementing the coach, they are telling to the compiler that this is the method I'm giving the implementation. That means in the coach interface, we have one method called get daily workouts. For that method, I'm giving the implementation in the baseball coach @override. @override, and come to the track coach as well. Give the same thing. Implement the coach, then @override annotation. It is knowing that now it came to the understanding that in the coach we have this method. For that method, we are going to give the implementation. Now come to my app. Here what I'll do, I'll create one coach interface reference. Coach, all coach, okay, is equal to new baseball coach no, coach itself, all coach, new track coach. So by using all coach itself, we can able to call any coach class. Here, instead of all coach, we should go for another, okay, because same reference variable, that is why. So what we can do is all coach 1, all coach 2. But all coach 1 reference and all coach 2 reference are same type, coach type only. 1 and 2. Save it. Then what you can do is run. Run as Java application. We are getting these two output. Okay. Now this coach can handle any type of sports, not only baseball, not only track coach, not only gymnastics, not only cricket. Any coach, sorry, any sport object it can able to handle. Okay. Now it is still hard coded. We are considering. Okay, it is still hard coded. Still it is hard coded. That means we are passing the object explicitly. Okay, still it is called hard coding. So that's why what I can do is making use of the configuration file. Right click on src, new file, then name it configuration with the extension .xml. This name can be anything. Come to the configuration.xml. Here what I'm trying to do, observe carefully. This configuration.xml file content, you need to copy and paste this much. Okay, just copy and paste this much of content. Okay, and don't forget to keep this opening and closing tags. So this is what we are adding here. Okay, this much you should be having already. This much you should be having already. So let me copy this and paste it in the chat window. In case if you want, we can able to refer. It is coming like this. Okay, fine, no issues. Just copy and paste it. Then here what we are trying to do, I'm trying to create a bean tag. Okay, with the ID attribute is equal to bean ID coach. Okay, this is the ID. This ID can be anything, it doesn't matter. Then we are specifying the fully qualified class path. Sorry, fully qualified. What we can say here, fully qualified name. Okay, like that, fully qualified name. So here I'm telling that I need a bean. I need a bean of baseball coach. Okay, here I can change. Next time I say that here I need a bean or object of track coach instead of hard coding. Okay, now how we can able to make use? Here I'm going to create one new class called my spring app. Okay, my spring app. So the first thing what we need to do is load the spring configuration file. That is the first step. See, this is another class, my spring app. It is not similar to my app. Here what we are trying to do here, we are not hard coding. We are specifying the object through XML file. We are not hard coding here. So in this class, what are the steps we are following? In the main method, first we are loading a spring configuration file. First we are creating an object of class path XML application context. Then we are passing our configuration file, that is XML file. Okay. We have loaded the spring configuration file. Then retrieving the object from the spring container. Retrieving the bean from the spring container. Spring container. Retrieving the bean. Retrieving the object from the spring container. Here what we are trying to do, coach interface, this is the coach interface, context, this is the context, reference. By using this only we can able to tell the spring container that this is the ID, this is the object that I want. This is the object I want. Here bean ID coach, in the XML we have configured bean ID coach, this is the ID. Then coach data class. Here bean ID coach, in the sense what it is going to refer it to, it is baseball coach. Now here interface we are specifying. Okay, coach data class. Internally interface also a class. Internally interface also a class. So coach data class I'm specifying. Now we have retrieved the bean from the spring container. Spring container is going to have this object of baseball coach. That bean or object we are going to retrieve. Then after that, call the method on the object. Now that whatever the object we have retrieved, that for that object, the coach reference will be pointing. By using the coach, we are going to call the get daily workouts. Internally, bean ID coach is pointing to what? Baseball coach. That output will get. We are not hard coding anywhere here. There is no concept of hard coding. So this is what we are calling the inversion of control. IOC, inversion of control. We get this baseball coach, spend 30 minutes for batting practice. In the configuration file, if I say track coach, then come to the spring app, run this. You will get run a hard 5K. We are not hard coding here. We are telling to the spring container that this is the object I want. Okay, configuring. We are configuring. We are not hard coding. Instead, we are configuring. So this much is the basic. Next. So here, if you see rough prototype, you'll get the understanding. Okay. Observe.
All right, let's dive into Eclipse and let's write some code. So what I want to do is continue to use that existing project that we created in some of the previous videos. And I'll start off by first creating a package. So I'll just right click on the source directory. I'll say new package. And the name I'll give for the package here, I'll call it com.lovetocode.springdemo. Because we love to code. And once you're happy with that, we'll go ahead and hit the finish button. All right, so we have this basic package. Now, the first thing I want to do is create the baseball coach. So it's a simple Pojo or plain old Java object. So I'll do a right click, I'll say new class. For the name, I'll call it baseball coach. And I'll keep all the other defaults here, and I'll hit the finish button. All right, so here we go, a very basic class called baseball coach. Let me go ahead and zoom for a bit. And I really want to create just one method here. This one method will be called get daily workout. And it's going to return a string. So here I'll say, I don't know, making something up here. I'll spend 30 minutes in the batting cage, or spend 30 minutes on batting practice. That's close enough. So again, just a very simple implementation here of this baseball coach for that method, get daily workout. And then kind of just stepping back, remember we're building this little app that's going to talk to the baseball coach and get daily workout. So we can kind of check the box there. This baseball coach class is complete. All right, so let's move back over here and let's go ahead and create another class here. Let's go ahead and create the My App class. So just do a right click and say new class.
See, all these things we have seen already. So what we need to see is the concept. Is this inversion of control? Observe this one.
In this video, we're going to cover inversion of control. So inversion of control is the buzzword that you always hear when you hear of the Spring framework. So what exactly is inversion of control? Well, it's simply the design process of externalizing the construction and management of your objects. So in a nutshell, it basically says that your application is going to...
See here, what it is saying, what is the inversion of control? The process of outsourcing the construction, that means the creating and managing of objects. The process of outsourcing the construction and the management of objects. So we are not bothering about creating the object. Instead, we are outsourcing it. That means Spring will take care of about that, creating the object and managing the object.
Outsource the creation and management of the objects. And that outsourcing will be handled by a object factory. And that's the big idea of inversion of control. Now, to kind of help you out with getting an idea of inversion of control, I'll actually walk through some coding examples. And we'll kind of start from scratch with a very rough prototype, and we'll try and refine it and refactor it over time, just so you can kind of see the real motivation for inversion of control and why we need the Spring framework. All right, so let's go ahead and start with this little coding scenario. So real simple example, we're going to have our app that will make use of a coach, like a baseball coach. And so our app will say, hey, baseball coach, give me a daily workout, just so you can find out what type of workout you need to perform at practice. So that's the big idea of this application. Now, one thing though is that the management team says, oh yeah, by the way, the app should be configurable. So this app should easily work for a coach in another sport. So you should easily be able to plug in a hockey coach, cricket coach, tennis, gymnastics, so on. So they want it to be configurable and also work with any type of coach. So now you're like, oh, I thought the project was easy. Now it got a little bit difficult. But don't worry, we'll kind of walk through this and we'll look at some possible solutions for this. And we'll kind of build out a little rough prototype.
See here, basically, basic requirement is what? My app class will be there. Baseball coach class will be there. What happens here? from the my app, we are going to interact with the baseball coach. This baseball coach is going to give us the object of the baseball coach class. Now this my app, it should be not only fixed for baseball coach. Instead, we should be able to use it for track coach, gymnastics, cricket, any other sports. That means app should be configurable. It should work for any sports. It should be work for any sports, not only baseball coach.
So this rough prototype, I'll have four key players. I'll first start off with my.java. It's simply the main program that has a main method. We'll use baseballcoach.java, will be a simple implementation. Then kind of in the version 2, once we kind of refactor it, we'll introduce an interface called coach.java. And then we'll also show another implementation called trackcoach.java. Just the whole idea of switching in a different coach and seeing if our application continues to work. So those are the main players. That's the big idea. Let's go ahead and move into the next video and let's get our hands dirty and let's start writing some code.
So next, um, Spring overview. Spring program, Spring platform. Spring inversion of control that we have seen.
All right, so we met the requirements, but our boss said, I'd like to see you test that out. Let's change the configuration file and let's put in a different implementation. I just want to make sure the code actually works as advertised. All right, no problem. So here, let me open my Spring config file. I'll move in here. Right now it has a track coach that it's using, and I want to change this over to use baseball coach. All right, so I'll replace track coach with baseball coach. It's all configurable. And then once I have that set up as baseball coach, I simply save this file. And so once the file is saved, I move over to my, my app again, and I simply run it. No need to change the source code here because it's reading everything from the configuration file. So I just do a right click, choose run as, and run it as a job application. And booyaka, booyaka. So now our baseball coach implementation is running based on the information from the config file. Our baseball coach says, hey, spend 30 minutes on batting practice. So this is really good. So we met the requirements. So our app's configurable, simply change the config file, run it without modifying any source code, and it'll pick up the new implementation. So again, job well done, drop the mic, and you can go ahead and head home for the day because you accomplished a lot of great stuff here. All right, good job.
See here, logging messages. In case of version 5, we are not getting any logging messages. In the console, if you see, we are not getting any log messages. The red mark, there will be a messages. That messages we are not getting. Why? Because it is of the different version. That means the previous versions we were getting the messages. Now we are not getting that messages. It doesn't matter. We don't want that message. In Spring 5.1, the Spring development team changed the logging levels internally. As a result, by default, you'll no longer see the red logging messages. Okay, the solution, if you want to see that logging messages, what you need to do, create a bean to configure the parent logger and console handler, configure the bean in the Spring XML config file. See, This one, it is not unnecessary as of now. Okay, we don't want to see those red marks. Okay, they have removed the red mark symbols, red mark messages. We don't want that. If you want it, this is a solution we have. Okay, maybe you can go to this one, this link. There you can find the detailed article. Now, why do we specify the coach interface in get to bean? Get to bean. What's that? Why do we specify the coach interface in the get to bean? In the get to bean we have no. In get to bean, where do we have this get bean? This one. Why we are specifying coach interface in the get bean? Like this. When we pass the interface to the method, that get to bean, behind the scenes, Spring will cast the object for you. That means behaves behaves the same as get bean string, but provides measure of type safety by throwing a bean not a bean not of required type exception. See, simply see why we are passing this interface. Now this interface is implemented by two classes: baseball coach and track coach. Baseball coach and track coach. This interface is implemented by baseball coach and track coach. Now, if I say the coach get a daily workouts, what happens? This coach interface is taking this get a bean, bean ID according to the bean ID. Here, bean ID might be baseball coach or might be track coach. These two classes have implemented this coach interface. Think like that. Definitely, we want to use this interface. That interface has been implemented by two classes, baseball coach and track coach. Specifically, why do we need that? This is the technical information. Behind the scenes, Spring will cast the object for you. That means whatever the object has been created, whatever the object that we got, that is casted. Now observe what I'll do here. Simply, I'll go for some mistake I'll make. Okay. Instead of bean ID, I'll say ABC. Now try to execute. Right click, run as Java application. What are we getting? We're getting this observe exception in thread main. No such bean definition exception. I'll change it back to bean ID coach. Now it works fine, no issues. We are going to use coach interface in get bean. See here, get bean. So if I want to go in depth, it will definitely take a lot of time. Get bean. These things they will not ask in the interview also. Means if these are all the experienced, they will go in depth. They will go in depth for experienced candidates. See, retrieving bean object by name and type. Yeah, here by name and type. By name and type. This is what we are using. By name and type. What is the name of the ID and what is the type? Type is coach interface type. Here this is the interface lion. Okay, context.getBean. Now this is the ID. Okay, ID that we are giving in the configuration file. Then this is the interface name.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you go with only that class name without doing without specifying the type name? I think it can access the only the class file. I mean the corresponding
Yeah.
class.
If I don't give the type here, if I simply give name, okay, retrieving the bean by name. Now here what happens? Carefully observe. Uh, Simply name I'll give. I don't give the type. Observe. What is the error I'm getting? Type mismatch cannot convert from object to coach. So here, whatever the return value is there, that is the object type. Now if I downcast to coach type, whatever the result I'm getting, if I downcast to that coach type, observe, we are not getting any error. But if I run this, what is the result? I need to downcast, then we'll get this output. Okay. If I
Okay.
don't give the type, I need to downcast this. Okay, downcast object. The return type, the return value will be object type. That object type we are downcasting it to coach type.
Okay. Okay.
To avoid that, I should give this.
Okay. For the casting purpose, we are using that.
That way you can think. Okay, that is the better solution. Then mm, what happens? So practice activity is there. Inversion of control with XML configuration. So I'll do one thing. I'll copy this and I'll paste it in the in the chat window. So please go through that and this is the practice. Okay, practice. Otherwise, I'll do one thing. I'll update it. That is better. I'll create one the resources. Spring and Hibernate. Spring and Hibernate. Hibernate. Simply I can say note. Practice activities there. Follow this. Closing this. So next, Spring dependency injection. What we have learnt as of now, inversion of control we have learnt, the basic. What is inversion of control we have learnt. Now we'll see spring dependency injection, DI, dependency injection, that is XML configuration.
In this video, we're going to cover spring dependency injection. So what exactly is dependency injection? Here's a textbook definition. Allows a program designed to follow the dependency inversion principle. The client will delegate the external code, the injector, the responsibility of providing its dependencies. If that didn't confuse you, I don't know what will. So let's kind of break it down into like normal layman's terms that a mere mortal can understand. And things that I can understand. So say, for example, I'm going to buy a car, and this car is built at the factory on demand. So there's nothing in the car lot. You have to actually talk to the factory and put in a request, and they'll build the car for you. So at the factory, you have all the different parts for the car. You have like the car chassis, you have the engine, the tires, the seats, the electronics, the exhaust, and so on. And the mechanics or the assemblers there, the technicians, they'll actually assemble the car for you and then deliver to you the final car. So you don't have to actually build a car. The car is already built for you at the factory. So they actually inject all of the dependencies for the car. So they inject the engine, they inject the tires, the seats, and so on. So that's basically what you have here with dependency injection. So you simply outsource the construction and injection of your object to an external entity. In this case, that's the car factory.
So what does it mean? Let's say I want a car. What I'll do is, let's say one car manufacturer is the car factory. Here, different parts will be there. Okay, I'll give the order, and different parts of car will be there. What they will do after getting the order, they will assemble all the dependencies of the car. If I want to make one car, that car having the dependency of tire, windshield, engine, chassis. What is that? Chassis? No, I don't know. It is not chassis. Something like
Chassis. Chassis.
chassis or something that is there. Okay, and all the dependencies. Okay, if I want to say a car, those are the dependencies. So we are not assembling all those things, but the car factory is going to approach. The car factory is going to make a request here, make a request, and what happens? All the dependencies for a car, all the dependencies will come together and making it one car object. Then that car object will be delivered to the user. That car object will be delivered to the customer. Injecting the dependencies here. If I want to say one car, what are the dependencies? Tire, windshield, engine, all those are dependencies. We are going to inject those dependencies to make a car, to make a car object. So this dependency, same thing as helper objects. You can able to call it as helper objects.
All right, so that was a basic car example. How does this work in the Spring world? Well, remember that Spring has an object factory, right? So then when you retrieve an object like a coach object, this coach object may have some additional dependencies. So these dependencies are really just helper objects, other objects that it needs to perform its operation. So instead of you having to manually build a coach object and all of its dependencies, the Spring framework or the Spring factory will actually do this work for you. So just like you get a car that's ready to drive, here you'll get an object that's ready to use. All right, so this Spring container. So we've kind of covered the two major functions of a container. In previous videos, we learned about the idea of creating and managing objects with inversion of control. And now here we'll focus on injecting objects dependencies with that dependency injection. And these are the two core features, and we'll kind of have this all covered once we finish this section of videos. All right, so we'll walk through this with an example again. So our coach already provides daily workouts.
See here, Spring Container. Spring Container, what are the basic functions? Spring Container, what it does? So basically, it can able to create and manage objects. Create and manage objects, that is what we are calling inversion of control. We are simply giving it as a name, inversion of control. And another function what it can do is injecting the object's dependencies. That is what we are calling dependency injection. Now we'll see what is dependency injection. That is done by the Spring Container. Spring Container, simply Spring Container is a object factor, Spring object factor. That is what we are calling Spring Container. Now here, my app, this is a customer, you can assume. Think of it as a customer. Now it is going to ask, I need a coach object. Now it is going to approach object factory, Spring object factory. Now this Spring object factory, based on the configuration, in the configuration which object that we have mentioned, here coach object we have mentioned, assume that is the object I want. Now it is going to fetch what happens based on the configuration here. Let's say in this configuration file I have mentioned baseball coach. Now it is going to fetch this object. Okay, then it is going to fetch this baseball coach object based on the configuration file. So here in the configuration we have to mention that which coach object I want. Based on the configuration file, it is going to fetch the object. Now these all we are calling it as helper objects or dependencies. Helper objects.
Framework of the Spring Factory will actually do this work for you. So just like you get a car that's ready to drive, here you'll get an object that's ready to use. All right, so that's Spring Container. So we've kind of covered the two major functions of the container. All right, so we'll walk through this with an example again. So our coach already provides daily workouts. Now our coach will also provide daily fortunes, like your good luck fortune. This coach will actually make use of a helper called fortune service. And this is what they call a dependency, because a coach depends on the fortune service in order to serve up the daily fortunes. Now, there's different types of injections you can use in Spring. Actually, there's a lot, but we'll cover the two most common injection types that you'll use. It's called Constructor injection, and there's also Setter injection. And we'll cover these in a set of videos here in this section.
See, in the interview, they'll ask what are the types of injections, Basically, the most common injection is Constructor injection and Setter injection. The dependency injection, what is the most common injection? If they ask, you should say Constructor injection and Setter injection. Now here, in addition to coach, we are going to create another class, fortune service. Now this fortune service is a dependency. We are going to inject this dependency. Let's see how.
Now, there's different types of injections you can use in Spring. Actually, there's a lot, but we'll cover the two most common injection types that you'll use. It's called constructor injection, and there's also setter injection. And we'll cover these in a set of videos here in this section. We'll also talk about auto wiring of these in the annotation section that we'll cover a little later. All right, so we'll start off with the constructor injection, and here's the development process. And you know me, I like to do things step by step. So the first thing we're going to do is define the dependency interface in its class. Then we'll go through and create a constructor in our class for injections. And then the final step is configuring the dependency injection in the Spring configuration file. And again, we'll do all of this step by step and from scratch. Okay, so let's start with step one, defining the dependency interface in class. So in the top left, we're going to have this fortune service. It's simply an interface that's going to have a method called getFortune, and that returns a string, and that's it. So simply the specification or the interface. In the bottom of the slide, we have this happy fortune service. This person actually implements the fortune service. And when I say implement, meaning they provide an implementation of that method, getFortune. So here, for the fortune, they'll simply hard code something to say, today is your lucky day, and they return that as a string. So that's a very simple example of an implementation of the fortune service. You could think of more advanced implementations, maybe an implementation that could read something from the file system, or maybe from a database, or possibly a web service. But we'll keep it simple for now, and we'll talk about some of those other advanced features a little later. Alrighty, so that's step one. So now step two, create a constructor in your class for injection. So again, we're going to make use of this constructor injection. So they're going to inject dependencies here by calling a constructor. So I have my class baseball coach. I need to create a constructor baseball coach that will accept this dependency. So it has to accept a fortune service. So I have a private field here called fortune service. And then I simply assign that field inside of the constructor here, where fortune service equals the fortune service. Okay, great. Now we configure the dependency injection in the Spring config file. So what I'll do at the top here in my Spring config application context.xml, what I'll do is I'll define this bean called my fortune service, that's the ID, and then the class of the actual implementation class of that service. And that's our happy fortune service that we just saw on the previous slide. So that's our dependency. Now what we need to do is actually inject that dependency into our class. And how do we do it? So now I have my my coach here, my bean ID equals my coach, class, baseball coach. Now what I do is I tell Spring, hey, inject a dependency into this baseball coach. So I have constructor arg and I have ref equals my fortune service. That's the same ID name of the bean up top. So ref equals my fortune service. That's the ID of the fortune service that we have up top. So they're going to inject this. Now, what will happen behind the scenes is that when Spring makes it to this line of code in your config file, they'll actually look at your baseball coach. They'll call your baseball coach's constructor, and they'll pass in a reference to the my fortune service. So Spring will actually construct your object and pass in the appropriate data into the constructor. And that happens behind the scenes. Because remember, Spring has an object factory. Spring is responsible for creating objects, and also it's responsible for injecting their dependencies. So we're kind of covering everything right here in this configuration. All right, so I know there's a lot of heavy stuff. What we're going to do is actually move into Eclipse, and then we'll actually write this code from scratch, and we'll also run it so you can kind of see it real time as far as how all this works out. So hold tight, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, real quick, in this video, we're going to discuss constructor injection and what happens behind the scenes. So we have our Spring configuration file that's been created, but you may wonder, well, what really happens behind the scenes when Spring runs through or processes is filed. So behind the scenes, the Spring framework will actually perform some operations for you based on the information you have in the config file. And I just want to kind of show you this code-wise so you get a better feel for what happens. So over on the left is our config file. Over on the right is kind of the work that Spring will do for you behind the scenes. All right, so when you create that first bean, My Fortune service, Happy Fortune service, behind the scenes, Spring will actually construct that object for you. So they'll actually call the default constructor or the no art constructor, and they'll create a Happy Fortune service, and they'll give it the variable name of My Fortune service. All right, so that covers that first piece of it, the first bean. Now, moving forward, there's also a second bean, My Coach. So here they'll actually create a new baseball coach, and based on the information from the config file, they'll pass in a constructor argument. And that's the same My Fortune service that we just created. So they'll create that baseball coach with that My Fortune service. And again, make this bean available. So the key here is that Spring will do this work for you in the background in Spring's object factory when they kind of create your objects and they inject the dependencies. This is really what's going on behind the scenes when Spring processes your file. So I hope this helps out a little bit. I wanted to kind of just cover that real quickly before we jump into the actual code. All right, so I'll see you in the next video. All right, so let's go ahead and move into Eclipse. Let's get our hands dirty and write some code. So we'll use that previous project from before. Our development process, the first thing we need to do is define the dependency interface in class. So we'll go ahead and start off with the first step here. So the first thing we need to do is define an interface. So I'll say new interface. I'll give the name of this interface as Fortune Service. Once you're happy, click the Finish button. So there's this very empty interface right here. I'll simply define one method called getFortune, and this method returns a string. And since this is an interface, there's no actual implementation code. We simply have just a semicolon, no curly brace or anything, just the method signature. Okay, great, so that's our interface. Now we actually need to create a class to implement this interface. So I'll do a right click, I'll say new class. And what we'll do is we'll make use of the Happy Fortune service that we saw in the slides. And what we want to do here is move down to this interfaces section. It's empty, but I want to click this add button and I'll actually add an interface to implement. So up top, I'll type in Fortune and it'll find Fortune service. We'll go ahead and select that one. That's the one that we just created in the previous section. And we'll hit OK. So we should have our interface listed here in the interfaces section. And once you're happy with that, let's move down and hit the finish button. Cool, so we have this Happy Fortune service. Woo-hoo, I like it, getting excited here. So let me expand the window. So our Happy Fortune service implements that interface Fortune service. And with that implementation, they gave us an auto-generated stub here for that method, getFortune. But here I'll just go ahead and I'll put in my own little fortune here. I'll just kind of hard code something for now. I'll say, today is your lucky day. Yeah, yeah. And again, just a very simple implementation that somebody can call this method and they can get their actual fortune.
So here, we have this already classes and interface. We are going to create one interface. First, what we are going to see here, it is constructor injection. Okay. Right click on this package, new class. It is not class, it is actually an interface. New interface. Let's say interface name is Fortune service. Fortune service, click on finish. I'm creating another class. This time I'm creating class called Happy Fortune Service. Happy Fortune Service. Here, okay, simply like this, and interface. Okay, this Happy Fortune Service will be implementing the interface called Fortune Service. Click on Add. Here I say Fortune Service. Select this. Click on OK. Click on Finish. In the um, Fortune Service, I'll be having one method, public string, get to fortune. This is the abstract method. So this method I'm going to implement it in Happy Fortune Service. Control space. Now get to fortune. By default, we are getting the annotation. While returning, I'll return some string. Today is your lucky day. Like that. Next step.
All right, so this looks pretty good so far. Now, what I like to do is actually move back over to my coach interface. Because of my coach interface, I actually want to add a new method to this coach interface. Because our coach already gives daily workouts, but now we want our coach to also give daily fortunes. So here I'll say, get daily fortune. And again, just the method signature, no implementation. So that's our coach interface. And then our classes that implement this, well, then they'll have to provide some implementation support. All right, so I'm going to save this coach interface, and ooh, I see some red X's here. Oh, I broke some of the classes that implement coach. And the reason they broke because those classes, they don't implement all the methods. So here we can just kind of hover over that red squiggly, and then we can choose that little fix here that Eclipse is suggesting. We can add unimplemented methods. Ooh, cool, I like it. So Eclipse is helping us out here. So Eclipse said, hey, you need this new method that the coach interface has and you don't have. So they went ahead and gave it to us. So thank you, Eclipse. And a similar thing here for track coach. They don't have it either. So we'll choose add unimplemented methods. So we're basically just fixing the code that we just broke. And we'll leave it right now for returning null. We'll come back to that stuff later, but at least we just have the method in there. We have a placeholder in place just to make it past the compiler.
So next thing, in the coach, we are going to declare another method, public string, get a daily fortune. I'll get error at baseball coach and track coach. Go to the baseball coach, implement the unimplemented methods. Fine. Go to the track coach, same thing. So this fortune service is a dependency. How we are going to inject this dependency? See, earlier we had only one method. What is that? In the coach, daily workouts. But now we are going to have this get a daily fortune as well. not daily, it's just daily. Spend, delete this. What are the new things we have added here? Fortune service, one interface I have created. In that, I have declared one method, get to fortune. Now this fortune service interface will be implemented by happy fortune service class @override. Then I'm going to create a new method inside the coach interface. Get a daily fortune. Earlier we had only one method. Now we have another method. If I say that, what happens, you'll get two errors, track coach and baseball coach. We need to implement unimplemented methods. In the coach interface, if I declare get to daily fortune method, I need to give the implementation in the baseball coach and in the track coach as well, because these two classes are implementing coach interface. This is the next. Just give me a moment. Fine.
So we just completed step one of
So what we have done here, define the dependency interface and the class. Dependency interface here, fortune service. And what is the class? Happy fortune service. Then the second step, create a constructor in the class for injections.
defining the dependency interface and the class. Now let's go ahead and focus in on step two, creating a constructor in our class for the injections. All right, so back into Eclipse, I need to actually create a constructor in my class for injections. So in my baseball coach class, I need to do two things actually. One is define a private field, and then two, define a constructor. So let's go ahead and just write some quick comments here in the file. So here I'm going to set up a private field for fortune service. I'll simply give the variable name is fortune service with a lowercase f. Okay, so the capital F is the actual interface name. The lowercase f version is our variable or field. And then I define a constructor for the dependency injection. All these fancy buzzwords here. We were actually doing it, which is pretty cool. So creating a constructor, right? Nothing fancy. Same name as the class, baseball coach. And now you, for the argument, you simply set up the actual interface name here. So fortune service, I'll call it the fortune service. And then I simply make an assignment here inside of this constructor. So I say fortune service, our field, equals the fortune service, the actual parameter being passed in. So Spring will actually construct our object, they'll pass in that dependency, and then we accept it, and then we simply assign it. And that's basically dependency injection. So our class is ready to accept dependency injection from the Spring framework. So we're in good shape right now. All right, so we're making progress here with this dependency injection. Now let's go ahead and use this new fortune service. So down in that get daily fortune method, let me remove all of that auto-generated stuff. And I'll write a little quick comment here to myself. Actually, give me some white space. I need to stretch out. Okay, now here's my comment. I'm going to use my fortune service to give the fortune, right? So the coach can do daily workouts on his own, but for fortunes, he actually needs a helper. And we're going to use that dependency that was passed in. So here I'll say fortune service dot get fortune, and that's what I return. So I'm basically helping out the coach by making use of this little helper class, so like an assistant. It's help the coach out. You always want to help the coach, right? Help him out. So that's basically it. So we're making use of our dependency in our actual application. So this is cool. We're doing some good dependency injection stuff here. Getting exciting. We can probably go brag to our friends now.
See, basically what he is doing. First, defining a private field. This is non-static member. Defining a private field for the dependency. Private fortune service. Fortune service is an interface for that reference variable. Fortune service. In the baseball coach. In the baseball coach. First thing. Defining a private field for dependency. How we are going to make it? That is private fortune service. Here variable name. Next. Defining a constructor for the dependency injection. Define a constructor for dependency injection. Simple way, I'll show you. Right click, then go to source, generate a constructor using fields. Generate constructor using fields, select this. Fortune service, this is the field we have. Click on generate. We are getting here. And I'm keeping it here. We don't need this super. Okay. Defining a constructor for dependency injection. Public baseball coach, fortune service type. Then this dot fortune service is equal to fortune service. So here you can able to go to avoid the confusion. The fortune service. Here the fortune service. So now we have created the constructor. Now come to the get daily fortune. While returning, make use of this fortune service. Fortune service. Start. We have this get fortune method. Other. While returning, I'm making use of this reference. There we have get to fortune. In the fortune service, we have this get to fortune. Now this fortune service is implemented by the class happy fortune service. Today is your lucky day.
We're doing some dependency injection. We're doing some DR. We can now one up our friends at the water cooler when we talk again. Yeah, man, I'm doing some spring dependency injection. All right, so there we go, looking good. So now the next step here is configuring the dependency injection in our Spring configuration file. So we need to set this up in our Spring config file, that application context.xml. So I'm going to just get some white space here. So I need to first define a bean here for that dependency. And that dependency, of course, is our fortune teller, right? Our little helper, our assistant coach or whatever. So here I'll set up this bean. I give the ID equals my fortune, and then class, and sets double quotes here, I'm going to empty for right now. And what I need to do for class is I need to give a fully qualified class name. So I'm going to show you this really cool Eclipse trick on how to do this. So you can go back over to your Happy Fortune service, that's the one that we want, and you can simply click on the class name, Happy Fortune service, then you can right click and you can choose copy qualified name. So what this will do is it'll give you the fully qualified name, meaning the package name dot the class name. So I can move back over to my application context.xml. I can right click on class equals and I can hit paste. And then booyah! All right, good. So we have the fully qualified class name, the package, and the actual class itself. This is very useful if you have a very long or very verbose package structure. This is an easy way to get it in there without having any typos or whatever, because we always make mistakes when we can't type stuff. All right, so that's the dependency. Now let's go ahead and set up the constructor injection. Ooh, fancy term. Okay, I tell you, you'll really be able to brag to your friends here. So constructor injection. Now, to use constructor injection, you make use of constructor-r. And we'll get your end element. I'm going to just say space slash and go back. Yeah, because I'm going to all right, and then I say ref equals, and now for ref equals, I give the actual ID of the bean that I'm going to inject, right? The ID. So that my fortune up there, copy that bean name, and I'm going to move it down here and choose paste. You can hand pick it if you want, but I like to kind of copy paste because I saved in some typing errors. So that's it. So they're going to, what they're going to do here is they're going to, when I say they, meaning Spring, the Spring framework or factory, they're going to create our coach object, call the constructor, and they're going to pass in that fortune reference, my fortune, which is effectively Happy Fortune service. So again, this car factory, they're actually going to build a car for you. So Spring, they're actually going to construct the object for you and inject the appropriate dependencies. Now let's go ahead and
See, next thing what we need to do is configuring the dependency injection in Spring configuration file. The in the config.xml. Configuring the dependency injection. Oh, here define the dependency. You want a comment, control shift forward slash. Now defining the dependency. Define the dependency. In here ID. What is the ID we are giving? This ID can be anything. My fortune. My fortune. Now class name. Fully qualified class name we should select. That means go to the base file coach. Just select this, right click and go for copy qualified name. Okay, then come to the configuration, paste it here. Vijay, wrestling demo, baseball coach. Fine. Next thing. No, I'm sorry, this is not what we are injecting. Um, Actually, it is happy fortune service. Okay, happy fortune service. Happy fortune service. Then what we need to do is setting up the constructor injection. This is important. Constructor injection. There is a method called constructor arc. Constructor arc. So it doesn't have the ending. That means it doesn't have the end tag. So that's why I'm ending here itself. Constructor arc. Spelling is fine or not? Constructor arc. Here ref equal to the reference I'm giving.
I think the slash is there, right? That one we have to put in front.
No. Here itself. Actually, in HTML, that is, I know if you are using what is that one tag is there. Yeah, for that tag, you need to give it in the beginning itself. One tag is there. In HTML, you should give this forward slash in the beginning itself. I think, what is that tag? Anybody remember?
No, sir.
Reference is my fortune. Why am I getting this? Multiple notation found. Okay. Actually, um, what do I need to do here? Here, it can be track coach or baseball coach. It doesn't matter. It should be ending here. Constructor injection. ID is my fortune. The class is happy fortune service. Then the constructor injection inside the bean of this track coach. Actually, inside the baseball we have implemented that constructor. So that is why what I'll do here it is I'll say baseball coach. What we have done here, defining the dependency. Happy fortune service. Now, where we are doing this constructor injection for baseball coach. For baseball coach. Now this is the tag constructor arc reference is what? My fortune. Let's see what he does in the next video.
Wow, we did some great stuff in that last video. So we're pretty much taken care of. We've covered steps 1, steps 2, and step 3. So we're ready to go. So what we're going to do now is actually move into our main application class. We'll make use of the beans from Spring and then call some methods on it. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so let's go ahead and move back to our main application class, our Hello Spring app. This is basically everything from before. So we go through and retrieve the bean from the container, my coach. But now this bean actually has some dependencies, right? The dependency meaning the fortune service. So it actually injects that fortune service onto that bean. So when we get the bean, we actually get the bean fully assembled. Remember, the Spring Factory, they're actually going to create all the appropriate beans and dependencies and inject those dependencies so you can make use of them. So you'll get an object that's fully assembled, ready to go. So your car has already been built, you simply drive it off the showroom floor. Now that that's taken care of, we simply call methods on the bean. And let's go ahead and call the new methods that we actually have for our fortune service. So here I just simply do system out print line, and I say the coach dot get daily fortune. Fortune, nice, I like that. And that's really it. We simply added a new method to support the new functionality that we just added to this application. So that's cool. Everything else in this app stays the same. There's no major changes here. All right, let's go ahead and run it. Right click, run as Java application. And voila, this looks great. So we got our daily workout, but now note this item here. Today is your lucky day. This is awesome because you're lucky today because you have a Spring app that's actually running using dependency injection and IOC and all those other fancy buzzwords. So you're ready to hang out with your buddies and brag. But anyway, this is cool. I'm having so much fun here. So we got this working, it's running, and we went through all of the whole process step by step. So I'm pretty excited right now. Now let's go back in here and let's make.
So here, come to this My Spring app. Then fourth one, what is that? For the fortune. Okay. Here we have this. Let's call our new method for fortune. Call the method of fortune. How we are going to call it? Spice4. Here. The coach. It daily fortune. This is the dependency we are injecting. Earlier we had only daily workouts. Now we have injected the another dependency called get daily fortune. This is the helper object. Dependency. This is the dependency. Right click, run as Java application. Error existing in projects. Where we have the errors. The My app. In the My app. Why I'm getting this? In the baseball coach. Fine. I'll comment it. As of now, we are not using that. So we are getting this daily workout, then we are getting this daily fortune. So we have injected one dependency. We have injected one dependency. First thing what we have done is created fortune interface. Declared one method, get to fortune. After that, created a happy fortune service that is going to implement the fortune service. Whatever the method we had, I'm going to give the implementation, get to fortune. Today is your lucky day. Consider this one as a dependency. Then, what we have done, come to the baseball coach. Fortune service type. Fortune service is the interface, reference variable. Creating the constructor of baseball coach. Here, constructor injection. First, we are defining the constructor for dependency injection. Defining the constructor for dependency injection. Now, fortune service type. Simply, you can think it as we are injecting the fortune service to this baseball coach. We are injecting the fortune service for the baseball coach. The fortune service initialized. Then get a daily fortune. By using fortune service, I'm overriding actually. What happens here? I'm implementing this coach now. Earlier, coach had only one method, get a daily workouts. Now we had another method called get a daily fortune. If that is the case, I have this get a daily fortune. Okay, I'm going to give the implementation. Then fortune service. What is this fortune service? This one. Inside this fortune service interface, we have method. Now for this method, I'm giving the implementation in the happy fortune service. Now this one you can able to consider it as a dependency. Dependency object. I'm calling get to fortune. Now whatever we have defined the constructor for dependency injection, that we need to configure in the configuration file. So here what I'm trying to do, defining the dependency. ID can be anything. Simply named it as my fortune. Class. What is a fully qualified class? Now this is the dependency I have. Okay. This dependency I'm going to inject to the baseball coach. How? First I'm defining the dependency. This is the dependency. Happy fortune service class is the dependency. Now inside the baseball coach bean, constructor injection. By using constructor arg. Now with reference is what? My fortune. We are going to inject this my fortune. What is this? Happy fortune service. This this happy fortune service object I'm going to inject. I'm going to inject to the baseball coach. This is what we are calling dependency injection. Buzzing constructor. This is constructor injection. Constructor injection. If you go
Sir,
to, yeah,
small question. Come back to the baseball class, sir.
yes,
Yeah, here, sir, in the in the constructor, the baseball coach
Ah,
constructor, whatever the yeah, the fortune service is there, right?
ah.
This is a type of is a variable name or is it a value? I'm getting confused in that. Fortune service is a type interface type, but
It is
what
the
about the
local variable for this constructor. Okay, local variable for this constructor. This name can be anything. It doesn't matter. This
but
name can be anything. It doesn't matter. Now this reference variable is of type fortune service. Okay. Then this dot fortune service is what this one.
okay,
This dot fortune service is what this one. Now internally what it does, the spring container. It is going to call this constructor. Is going to call
okay,
this constructor by passing what? What it is passing? Fortune service.
okay.
Now,
Here the question, sir. Here the question actually. Inside the spring is going to call the value for the fortune variable or the same variable name itself it is going to call. That's the question actually. You got my question, sir?
I'm trying to understand what is your question.
Yeah, actually, my question is, uh, fortune service is a interface type, right? So we
Ah,
just
yes.
declared we just declared the fortune service as a variable or a reference.
Ah,
So
yeah.
for this anyway, normally in the program we'll do passing the values, right, for the new variable.
Yeah.
But in the Spring, what it's going to do, it is going to take the just like that value is going to automatically take, or it will what is going to do. That's the point.
Yeah. Yeah. What's happening here? Here, here values are not passing. Yeah, the
Okay.
type fortune service type. This is
Okay.
what fortune service is what
Say
interface
interface.
type.
Okay.
Interface type. Then the fortune service is a reference variable. Simply a type of reference variable of what? Fortune service.
Okay.
Here, this the fortune service is the local variable to this constructor called baseball coach.
Okay.
Now, this dot fortune service is what I'm trying to refer it to this reference variable, fortune service, is equal to the fortune service. Now, what happens? The constructor is
Okay.
going to pass what? This happy fortune service. Okay.
Okay.
Constructor, sorry, this spring, what it does is going to pass this happy fortune service.
Okay.
Happy fortune service. Then what happens? That fortune service will be having will be having what? This whatever it is first, that is happy fortune service, will be having by this fortune service.
Okay.
Then if I say fortune service dot get to fortune. Now where we have this get fortune here, see the spring container, what it does, it while it is going to call this baseball coach here. Observe in the configuration file, constructor arc. Now my fortune we are passing. First, what we have done, define the dependency.
Okay.
This is the dependency. Happy fortune service. This is dependency class we are passing to here. Spring is passing. Okay. Spring is
Okay.
passing that the happy fortune service here. Now that happy fortune service is initialized with the fortune service. This one. Now by using that fortune service, I can able to access get fortune. Get fortune where we have here happy fortune service. See, this is the dependency. Now, the first dependency type is defining the constructor dependency. Sorry, constructor dependency injection. For that, what we have done. See, from the beginning, I'll explain what we have done. First, fortune service interface. This is the thing. Then, then this happy fortune service is implementing fortune service. This one. Now consider this one as a dependency we are about to inject. This is the dependency we are going to inject. This is the dependency. Now what we have done, come to the baseball coach, define a private field for the dependency. Private field I'm defining for the dependency. Now fortune service type is reference. Fine. Now constructor injection. For this baseball coach, we are doing what? Constructor injection, dependency injection, constructor dependency injection. The baseball for the baseball coach, what I'm injecting? Fortune service I'm injecting. For the baseball coach, earlier what we had only daily workouts. Now what I'm adding? Fortune service as well. How? By using dependency injection. We're injecting the dependency fortune service. Now don't worry about this reference. This reference can be anything, and this reference is local to this constructor. Now we are going to initialize initialize this fortune service with whatever the object that we have, that we are passing. That means internally spring container will do that. Spring container will do that. Now here what we are passing here we are passing happy fortune service. Happy fortune service we are passing. Happy fortune service. Okay. Then that happy fortune service will be pointed by fortune service, this one. Now by using fortune service, you can able to access get fortune, where we have this get fortune here. Today is your lucky day. Simply what we have done by using constructor injection, we have injected fortune, fortune service, that is happy fortune service, to the baseball coach class. Now that I'm configuring, defining the dependency first, the configuration file, what is that? Using bean ID for my fortune, and what is the dependency here? My fortune service, this is the dependency. Now for which class we are injecting that? Using constructor injection. Now what we are doing, my fortune I'm passing. My fortune is what? Happy fortune service. Inside the bean of baseball coach. Inside the bean of baseball coach, I'm passing what? My fortune. My fortune is happy fortune service. Now, for the baseball coach, what happens? It is going to pass happy fortune service here. Happy fortune service. See here, we need to initialize this field. No, we need to initialize this field first initially. Private fortune, fortune service, fortune service. We need to initialize this field. Now, how we are initializing? By using constructor. By using constructor. Now, this baseball coach constructor is going to take one argument of type fortune service. Now, this fortune service is implemented by happy fortune service. Whatever we are passing in the configuration file is happy fortune service. Happy fortune service. That happy fortune service will be there here. Now this happy fortune service I'm going to initialize with the fortune service. This is the field. Okay. By using this fortune service, I'm accessing get to fortune. Simply what we are injecting the dependency. That is what dependency here? The dependency here it is happy fortune service. Happy fortune service. That dependency I'm going to inject to the baseball coach. At least you got the idea.
Yes, yes, I got it.
Earlier we were only getting daily workouts. Now we can able to get daily fortune as well. In the baseball coach earlier, we were getting only daily workouts because of the dependency injection, because of the constructor injection. We can able to get daily work, daily fortune as well. We can able to get the daily fortune as well. This is the daily fortune. This daily fortune is the method from happy fortune service. This is the dependency. That dependency we have injected to baseball coach. How? In the configuration file, I'm defining a bean for happy fortune service. This bean ID we are injecting through constructor injection to the baseball coach. My fortune, my fortune.
So, sir, actually, by using this, I think we can reduce the code, right? Like without doing the separate procedure, we can by using the same class name, we can do it.
Building the same class.
No, like actually here we are creating two interfaces and we're calling the two interface methods in the same single class. Like we are reducing the time and code. I think I'm thinking like that.
Simply, what we have done here, one interface is there. That interface having methods, abstract methods. Those methods will be implemented by classes. If I don't use the interface, what happens? You know, what happens if I don't use the interface? What happens? Hard coding. We should do the hard coding, right? For
Yes.
baseball coach, I must and should create the baseball coach reference only. For track coach, I must create the track coach reference only. Accept. Then only it can accept what corresponding objects, right? If I don't use the interface, what happens? What happens? Here, observe that we have seen already. Compulsory you need to create what? Baseball coach only, then you need to supply what? Baseball coach. Compulsory you need to create what? Track coach only, you need to supply track coach. But if in case, if you are using interface, what happens? You can able to supply baseball also, you can able to supply track coach also for the same interface, right? How? This coach interface is implemented by baseball coach as well as track coach. We are we are eliminating the hard coding. We don't have to hard code. Instead, it should work for any sport. This code should be working for any sport, not only specific sport. Instead, it can work for any other sport. Otherwise, we have to hard code. Okay. Then we have the other solutions as well. In the configuration file itself, what we can able to do, we can able to define the bean. Okay. Define the bean. Then what we have done here, loading the configuration file. Then we are getting the bean ID. Then this is the interface. Then we are calling get daily workouts. If the bean ID is of type baseball coach, you'll get the daily workout of baseball coach. The bean ID is, if the bean ID coach is of type, the bean ID coach name is of type track coach, you'll get the daily workout of track coach. We are not hard coding. Instead, we are configuring the we are configuring we are configuring in the configuration.xml. That means we are not creating the object anywhere. Are we creating object here? No. The creation of object, I have left it to the Spring container. I don't have to create the object by using new baseball coach, new track coach. I'm not doing that. That the process I have left it to what? Spring container. Spring object factory, Spring bean factory. That is what I'm telling by using configuration. See, you should go again and again, again and again. Then all you'll get understanding. Okay, in one shot, it is difficult to understand, but you'll get the concept overview, something like that. If you are doing by yourself, then you'll get the clarity. At least you're getting the idea, no? What is dependency, all those things. Right or wrong?
Yes, sir, we're getting idea.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I just simply do system out print line, and I say good coach dot get daily fortune. Fortune, nice, I like that. And that's really it. We simply added a new method to support the new functionality that we just added to this application. That's cool. Everything else in this app stays the same. There's no major changes here. All right, let's go ahead and run it. Right click, run as Java application. And voila, this looks great. So we got our daily workout, but now note this item here. Today is your lucky day. This is awesome because you're lucky today because you have a Spring app that's actually running using dependency injection and IOC and all those other fancy buzzwords. So you're ready to hang out with your buddies and brag. But anyway, this is cool. I'm having too much fun here. So we got this working, it's running, and we went through all the whole process step by step. So I'm pretty excited right now. Now let's go back in here and
See, as of now, we have injected the dependency for baseball coach. Now let's inject the dependency for track coach as well. Track coach also needs to use the fortune service as well.
let's make some changes. Let's go ahead and drop in our track coach. So our track coach can also make use of the fortune service because, hey, we don't want to leave anyone out, right? We want to give equal preference to all of the sports at our university. So here we have our private fortune service, fortune service here. So that's for track coach. Our track coach also needs a constructor to support constructor injection. I'm going to show you a nice little trick. So right click, go to source, one more time. Right click source and choose generate constructor using fields. Ooh. So with that. So Eclipse will actually look at the fields that you have in your class and it will actually create a constructor using those fields. So here we have this one field called fortune service and we can keep all the other defaults and then we can actually move down and hit the OK button and Eclipse will actually generate some code for us. Boom, booyah. So what we see right here on lines 7 through 9, this is a constructor that Eclipse created and it created it based on the fields that we have in this class. Really cool, I like this feature. And it's very flexible, you can turn it on and off if you have multiple fields. But anyway, that covers it for right now. So we have our constructor set up for injection. Now in the bottom here, we're actually going to use this service. So again, get daily fortune is a fortune service dot get fortune. And for this track coach, they're going to do something a little fancy here. They're going to add their own little message on the beginning. Just do it. Famous commercial. Just do it, and then they'll drop in the fortune service. Just a little custom implementation, just so that we know that the track coach is really doing something differently than the baseball coach. All right, so we have that saved. Now in our config file, we just swap out baseball coach, and we'll drop in track coach. And we'll save that. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and right click and run it. So right click running this Java application and oh my gosh, an error exists in the project. Yikes, what happened? My app? What's up with that? Oh, gotcha. This is our old rough prototype from earlier. Um, uh, for now, let's comment it out. I'll come back and fix it later. But just for now, I don't want to deal with it right now. So I'll just put some comments there, save it, and now I'll go back and run it. I'll fix it later. So, and I'll actually fix it in this video. So, right click, run as Java application. I don't want to steal my thunder here because I'm on a roll. Run a hard 5K from the track coach and boom, just do it. Today is your lucky day. Cool. So our track coach is also serving up fortunes, which is really cool. So I'm happy. No speeches. Right? All right, so let's go back and fix that issue that we had before. So that my app. So we just commented on some code, but how should we really? What's the real solution here? And the real solution is that on the left-hand side, they're trying to create a track coach, but we don't have a no-art constructor or we don't have a default constructor. So we need to add that to the class. So I can simply just hover over, well, actually, I just go ahead and type it in myself. I'll go ahead and do it the long way. So I can go back to my track coach class, and I simply need to create a no-argument constructor. So public track coach, open paren, close paren, and then here we go. So this is kind of a hack, not totally ideal, but anyway, this will help us out when we get to the setter injection stuff. So anyway, I'll kind of leave it for now. There are minor issues here or there, but we'll worry about that later. So anyway, that takes care of the actual compiled issue, and we're good to go. So I think we're in good shape here. I mean, we covered all of the basic constructor injection stuff with dependency injection. Good job. Woohoo! And now I'll go back and run it. I'll fix that later. So, and I'll actually we'll save that. Okay.
So next, what we will do, come to the track coach, same thing, private fortune service, fortune service. Going to generate the constructor, source, generate constructor, version fields, generated. While returning, what I'll do is fortune service dot into fortune. Come to the configuration, instead of baseball coach, say track coach. Now we have the track coach. Save it. Come to the My Spring app. Run as Java application. Run a hard 5K. Today is your lucky day. We have injected the fortune service dependency to the track coach. Next, what we have? Setter injection. Next is setter injection. Okay, I don't know how much we have completed as of now. Next, we have setter injection. See, if you are going with experience, okay, if you are going with the experience, definitely not 100%, definitely 1000%. They'll ask you Spring and Hibernate. Keep that in mind. if you put at least 1.5 year or 2 years of experience, definitely they're going to ask you about Spring and Hibernate. Okay, this is the course. It is explaining. It is like a ABCD. Okay, no other course can able to explain like this. So it is everything we are going to cover, including the whatever they ask like REST API, MVC, and aspect oriented programming. Okay, all those things. So please concentrate and try to practice. Otherwise, definitely you'll forget. Okay, definitely you'll get the confusion. If you forget what happened, some concept, you will get the confusion automatically. So my suggestion is please go through. Okay, and if you want to buy this course, like simply you can able to type this a name on the Udemy. You can buy it. Okay, it is costing around you like 300 or 400. That's it. But alone this itself, you might not be understanding. Like I'm also keeping the effort of explaining these things. Fine. So consider this if you want to if you want to build a project based on the Spring and Hibernate, and if you want to try a job with experience, okay, this is the only solution. If you go for any other courses, what happens? No, they'll just give you the brief things about the concepts. They don't go step by step or in depth. What happens? Even though you know the concept, but if they go little deeper, you might get the confusion. Fine. um, you know Please practice this and let me update.
Okay, sir.
So now I'll be updating this one. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow at 6:30. Or why Devraj is not available at 6:30?
No, sir, got late in office.
What time you can able to attend?
6:30 is okay, sir. Today it
6:30
was.
is okay now.
Today I had some more tasks. That's why I got.
Now only I'm telling Devraj, take it as serious. Okay, if you want to learn advanced, if you want to try the job using experience, definitely
Yes,
there are Spring and Hibernate. This is the only way. Take it as serious and you should practice. Okay,
yes, sir. Sure.
fine. We'll continue tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.